Hello and welcome to Sarat Chandra IAS Academy, where your dreams are our mission. This is Yatharth here. In the last lecture, we talked about a lot of things. I hope you have already watched that lecture and learned a lot. In this lecture, we are going to deal with an editorial in view of India and its neighbor. That is the main theme. And this is a prominent theme across question papers in international relations. So it is important to understand all the points here in this editorial. So we'll deal with one by one all these points and headings, and in the end we'll make a mind map of how to make this editorial reading concise. So we'll end with a mind map. The thing here is that you always have to have a mind map for all the editorials. It is also important for current affairs, but not only current affairs. For all the editorials, you have to have a mind map structure, which will tell you about an introduction to the issue, the challenges faced or the body, and the way forward finally. That what should be done for this whole issue or whole thing. Alright, so let's begin. So India's growing neighborhood dilemmas. Dilemmas means in Hindi it's dubhida. Dubhida means when you have two ways to do something and you have to choose one of them, let's say. So this is a dilemma. So India's aspirations. Aspirations mean desires for global leadership. So this is the main aspiration of India right now. Global leadership faces a significant obstacle. Obstacle mean any hurdle or problem or issue in its strained relationships with its South Asian neighbors. Neighbors means the one who live close to us, and strained means, let's say, a little bit stressed. So while the country has ambitious visions of being a leader in the global south, now we are talking about the global south. So this is a political or IR term. Basically every country around or below the equator or in the southern hemisphere. In view of, let's say, Africa, India, Southern Americas, alright, and Southeast Asia, let's say. So India wants to be a leader in this aspect. In the northern hemisphere, we already have big leaders. Let's say America, there is Russia. These are the big leaders there, France, Germany. So in the global south, we can prospect India as a leader. So an arbiter in global geopolitical contests and a major pole in world politics. Arbiter means the one who speaks in the middle of some issue, let's say, between two parties. So as the world is being developed into a polar world between, let's say, the North, USA, etc., and the West, US, etc., and the East, let's say, China, Russia, Korea. So India has to find its position somewhere in between it, as it always has, as a non-aligned group or a non-aligned country. So its own neighborhood seem hesitant to join the bandwagon. Bandwagon means, let's say, big car. So in fact, South Asia is arguably holding India back, albeit indirectly. So let's see what is happening in South Asia and how is the relationship of India with its neighbors, which is holding its leadership aspirations back. So while managing a neighborhood can be challenging for any major power, contemporary India, contemporary means of this time, faces an exceptionally difficult situation. This difficulty is further compounded. Compounded means to make even worse or increase by the rise of China. So China is a big competitor to India, and while we have, let's say, make China second in a population, we are nowhere really close in terms of economy or productivity or a global power, let's say, a superpower emerging in its backyard for the first time in history. Let's move forward and deal with the mapping portion first and foremost, which is very important for us to understand things. So this is India, our dear India, and in the just a second west of India we see the Pakistan. So we do not have very good relations with Pakistan stemming in our history and present. Furthermore, when we see in the context of Afghanistan as well, so due to the recent takeover of Afghanistan by the Taliban, our relationship with Afghanistan has also strained, and there was a shutdown of the consulates in India. Alright, when we move towards the north to the China, then again we are not having a very amicable relationship here. When we come to Nepal and Bhutan, these smaller countries, so first of all, while they do not pose much of a benefit towards us, we still have issues with them. Let's say Kalapani issue, which is rooting here. And also recently we saw the Doklam Plateau here in Bhutan, which is having the area exchange with China. Alright, so India is having something perilous here as well. When we see to Bangladesh, we recently have a highway project going to West Bengal through Bangladesh. The Bangladesh is still in effect of China as well economically. In Nepal also we see the economic effect of China because of its long border sharing with China this side. When we come to Myanmar, we have already ports going across Myanmar to China. So all of these countries are in effect of China majorly. And as the effect of China increases in the Indian Ocean or the South China Sea, it will become harder and harder for India to gain attraction here. Furthermore, as we see recently that Sri Lanka has gone through an economic collapse or economic trade down, it has become less beneficial for India to correlate with Sri Lanka. We are also seeing news from Maldives, which has strained Indian relation or relationship with India and has asked Indian people, Indian businesses, and Indian soldiers to go back from India. So if we sum up, we have trade issues here, let's say. Alright, we have boundary issues here. We have relationship issues here. We have ports developed here. Alright, we have a highway here that's very good and some hydropower projects. But these are all in effect of China. When you come to this side of the map, we can again see the portions. And here we can see our borders with furthermore countries of the Central Asia that we need to develop a relation with. Alright, so we summed up. Basically, China's effect is rising in the Indian Ocean region and South China Sea, and in the Southern Asian politics or geopolitics. The effect of China is such that it is also expanding towards the Africa as well as playing a part in the Israel or Middle Eastern conflict. So China is essentially increasing its impact and India has to have a competition there. Alright, let's move forward. So what are New Delhi's dilemmas in the neighborhood? So there are three primary types of dilemmas in the South Asian neighborhood. So this is an information for our mind map that we have three types of challenges that we are facing or the dilemmas that we are facing. The first one is the political dilemma. So the rise of the politically anti-India regimes in the region poses a significant challenge. For example, the Maldives' new government is effectively pushing India's interest out of the country. So we saw this very recently in the current affairs. So one country we are covering here is Maldives. The second thing, additionally, a potential Khalida Zia-led government in Dhaka, that is in Bangladesh, could prove to be ideologically anti-India, further complicating the situation. So this is about the politics, due to the political changes. The second thing is structural dilemmas. The Belt and the Road Initiative, that is BRI. So many South Asian countries are becoming increasingly... Okay, one news here I would like to mention that Italy has recently pulled back from the Belt and Road Initiative. So that is a good news for us. And that could be possibly because of, let's say, COP28 meeting where India Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Meloni met from Italy PM. So many South Asian countries are becoming increasingly entangled in the BRI and other Chinese projects because of the vicious debt cycle and the promises of good infrastructure, which is very essential for the development of any country, strengthening China's economic footprint in the region. Other thing is strategic outreach. So we have had one issue is the political issue, in which we saw two countries, first of all Maldives and the Bangladesh, then the structural issues in which we saw the China expanding its BRI in the South Asian region. Alright, we'll later also deal in the mapping portion this all. So the rest of the international community avoids them. Which countries? Let's say, as seen with Afghanistan under the Taliban, Myanmar under the military junta, and Sri Lanka during its economic crisis. So, China actively engages with these countries. While India is not sharing any relationship right now with Afghanistan, with Sri Lanka, let's say, or with Myanmar. So, this is essentially blocking out some neighboring partners because of what's going on or happening in those countries individually. The third thing is border settlements. So China's willingness to settle border disputes with its neighbors, such as Bhutan, this we talked about, stand in stark contrast to its ongoing border standoff with India. This approach helps China win over the region. Fourth thing is these factors combined contribute to politically alarming scenario without innovative measures. India risks become geopolitically locked within an unfriendly South Asia. Alright. So this all we could talk in mapping also, or the mapped portion also. Alright, so this is the structural dilemma. Let's talk about the normative dilemma, that what are the rules and norms. So traditionally, India has adopted a normative and political approach towards its neighbors. This approach has involved engaging with established governments and promoting value-based initiatives. So this is what India has been following as a rule or a norm, or what is normal for India. That is what is according to norm for India. So, however, China has disrupted this established order by offering a no frills, non normative alternative. This has created a norms free zone in South Asia for the first time in modern history. So, the China's approach towards other countries slightly different from India. So, India is a democratic country, and its policies has to be in line with what the population wants or what is beneficial for the population, whether it is economic import exports or other things. But China is an authoritarian country, and it doesn't have to think about its people much when they take decisions. So China can offer this no frills non normative alternatives for any countries regarding their import export economic situation and other things. Let's say if there is something happening in Myanmar, so India will stop trade with Myanmar because there is no democratic, let's say, government in Myanmar, while China will keep on being or calling it as a normal. Furthermore, India's historical position as the undisputed leader in the region has shifted. Today, being the resident power in South Asia comes with significant downsides, including cultural, ethnic refugee, and other spillovers. In contrast, China operates as a non resident power, benefiting from the absence of such complications. So, what we see is that in India, there have been growing issues that have drained the energy, such as, let's say, refugee crisis, ethnic crisis. People from Bangladesh are coming and, let's say, destroying some social thread. People from Myanmar border are coming and creating unrest in the northeastern states. Alright, so these are the issues where China is triumphing because it does not tolerate all these things, even on the cost of, let's say, human rights. Third thing, let's talk about the roots of the problem. So, what is the main issue? The causes of the India South Asian dilemma. So, three major factors contribute to the India South Asian dilemmas. Until now, what we saw was what are the challenges faced or challenges involved right now. We'll now see what is the cause of these challenges. Alright, so first thing is shifting geopolitical architecture. The diminishing presence of the United States. That means India can survive very ghastly when there is a multipolar world or polar world. So India's role increases when the distance between both the poles increases or when they grow stronger and stronger. Let's say US is also strong, China is also strong. Alright, then India's position is better. Why? Because if they have to have an influence in any of the countries of Indian Ocean region, then India will have to play a role. Alright, and the benefits being offered from other country will be more than one of these poles. Now, when the USA is growing weaker in one region, then influence of China is rising. And China does not need India for exerting its influence in this region now. Alright. So a former geopolitical contestant in South Asia has created a power vacuum. So now India is not needed because USA's influence in this region is diminishing. Second thing is, while this was not always beneficial to India, Washington's withdrawal has undoubtedly created disadvantages, particularly with China filling the void. So, additionally, the rise of China has provided a geopolitical buffer for smaller regional states, allowing them to leverage China's influence in their foreign policy assertions. Moving forward, the second thing is India's policy stance. So, India's tendency to prioritize the status quo when dealing with its neighbors' domestic policies and multiplicity of factors within them contributes to the problem. So, India has always have a priority to maintain the status quo, such as whatever is like this, let it be like this. When dealing with its neighbors, domestic policies and multiplicity of factors within them contributes to the problem. So while engaging primarily with established governments might seem prudent and less risky, it alienates other power centers and opposition leaders. This is evident in the case of Bangladesh. So with Bangladesh, we always had a very amicable relation with the Sheikh Hasina government. Alright, but now the center power is changing and we have never had any interaction with this power. So it can pose a problem that let's not keep making friendship with the friends. Seek out other people also, that what they are doing and what will benefit us when they are in power. So this is also an individual lessons to how people should behave. Third thing is mistaken assumptions. So too long held assumptions by India have proven detrimental. Detrimental means harmful to its neighborhood policy. One thing is South Asia minus Pakistan. So for some time, India believed that South Asia minus Pakistan would be receptive to its geopolitical reasoning. However, this approach has not yielded the desired result. So essentially, India nullified and negated the existence of Pakistan from all its spheres. But this is not very receptive to South Asia. Second thing is India's special relationship. India assumed that its unique cultural, historical, and ethnic ties to the region would provide an advantage in dealing with its neighbors compared to countries like China, such as we see the Bali Jatra or the relation with the Philippines, Cambodia, Vietnam, the temples in Cambodia. So we all have a cultural impact on these countries because of our history, but this is not very relevant in the modern time when the economy rules. So this assumption has not materialized as China's economic resources offer a more tangible advantage. Now what is the way forward? So we saw what are the problems. We saw the cause of these problems. And now we are seeing the way forward. So first thing is that India needs to adopt a multi-pronged approach. Multi-pronged means multiple forks are there. So one thing is acknowledge the new reality. So India must recognize that power dynamics in South Asia have fundamentally shifted. Just a second. Alright. So the old South Asian where India held undisputed primacy no longer exists. Instead, a Southern Asia is emerging where China is a serious contender for regional primacy. Accepting the new reality is crucial for developing an effective strategy. But this does not stand 100% true, as we have always recognized China as a threat, let's say, and we always know that China has been emerging. It's not a new reality. It's been there since last 40-50 years at least, and India has more or less successfully tackled it. But now things are changing, and a new reality may arise if India is not very prudent in its dealings. Second thing is seek external support. So proactively involving friendly external actors in the region can help counter China's growing influence and prevent South Asia from becoming Sino-centric. Sino-centric means China-centric. So this also we can add a point here that India has recently developed many programs with Australia. So which is a major country in the South China Sea and the oceanic region. India has also developed, let's say, external support from the EU through various programs, and India has also seeked its stage recently in COP28 and has met multiple leaders, especially USA, to do many things in the future. So India's stance is clear, but let's see what future brings for India. Third thing is engage multiple actors. So one thing is broaden the dialogue. Dialogue means basically more meetings, more things to talk about people. So go beyond engaging with just the ruling parties and their circles. So especially in case of Bangladesh, it has been seen. Third thing is open channels for communication with opposition parties, civil society organizations, and the other influential groups. This is in view of Myanmar. Build bridges with diverse communities within each country, recognizing their unique perspective and concerns. So this is in view that most of our neighbors, they have other populations also. Let's say when we go to Myanmar, when we go to Bangladesh, when we go to Indonesia, they are Muslim populations. So we cannot have a dialogue or connection with them depending on our own history or own culture and ethnicity, because they do not follow our religion, majority religions, let's say. So this can also be a solution to keep India in the right tracks. Other thing is leverage track 2 diplomacy. So this is track 1 and track 2 thing. So utilize informal dialogues and engagements to foster trust and understanding beyond official channels. This is there. So the soft power, basically academic exchanges, cultural events. So this has happened with Australia, the Maitri program recently signed, and youth leadership programs to build long-term relationship and understanding. Encourage collaboration on shared challenges like climate change, disaster management, and economic development. So this has been happening between Bhutan, India, the Nepal India, and the Bangladesh India. So this is already there, and we need to further more on this. Other thing is tailor engagement to each country. So each country is different. We need to see their historical relationship, current priorities, etc. So avoid a one size fits all approach and adopt flexible engagement strategies. So this is very common theme or solution. Furthermore, we can see address the information gap. So actively combat misinformation and negative narratives about India and the region. So this is because of the rise of social media, you can say. Alright, so there are various negative narratives about India that can spread in a jiffy of second in various different countries, affecting their majority populations and their overall policy towards India. So we should be taking care of this. Enhance public diplomacy efforts to project a more accurate and nuanced image of India. So there is this public diplomacy effort, let's say soft power, basically cultural exchange, etc. Increase engagement with regional media outlets and influencers. So influencers mean basically social media, etc. So we need to take part in this also. Invest in regional infrastructure and connectivity. So just we are, let's say, copying China here. So prioritize investment in regional infrastructure projects that benefit all countries involved. Let's say waterways. To enhance connectivity through trade, transport, and energy initiatives. Promote economic integration. This one of the examples, good example of this is ISS. So that is in space, but we can create one in water, let's say. So promote economic integration and interdependence to create a shared stake in regional stability and prosperity. Basically a teamwork. Let's do something together. Alright, the last one is that actively participate in regional forums and organizations like SAARC and BIMSTEC. Work collaboratively with other regional players to address a common challenge and promote regional cooperation. And utilize these platforms to strengthen India's relationship or leadership role and promote its vision in the region. So again, let's just quickly make a mind map of all this. So what challenges we faced? First thing that we talked about was the challenges that we are facing. So Maldives we talked about. The ruling party is throwing us out. We talked about the Bangladesh. Let's say the ruling party is changing. It does not want amicable relationship with us. We talk about China. So China is clearly growing and a threat to us. Pakistan. We have no relations with Pakistan as such. Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka, after the economic collapse, we are sharing not much relationship with Sri Lanka. We take about Afghanistan and Myanmar as well. So after the ruling party takeover, we don't have very good relations with them either. We talk about the Bhutan and Nepal. We have okay relationship with them, but they are also inclined towards China. Now we see what China is doing differently. So it is acting as a non-resident power. It's not based on culture, etc. It's based on economy majorly. It's influencing through the debt trap also. And it's influencing through its better economic policies, etc. What we need to do, we also saw the cause of this problem, the changing factor that US is going down. The Pakistan is not involved, which is not very receptive to the South Asia, and India's one size fits all approach. Also India's, let's say, hesitancy to involve other parties, other ruling parties, except for the majoritarian party, and other democratic or demographic communities apart from what it share cultural ties with. So this is there, and we saw the way forward. So there are many things in the way forward we already saw. So this is the mind map. Basically, this is how you should create a mind map for everything you read. This is the notes I will provide you in the Telegram channel. All right, it's by name Sarat Chandra IAS Academy. You can see all the notes here. All right, so this was about today's lecture. I hope you learned a lot. Thank you very much. This is Yatharth here signing off. Have a very good day ahead. See you in the next lecture.